In a shadowy realm far from the light of heaven, there were 7 princes of hell, each ruling over their domain with a dark hand. These princes were known for causing trouble and leading people astray. The first prince was Lucifer, the embodiment of pride. He resided in a grand castle with walls made entirely of mirrors, so he could always admire himself. Lucifer was very good at making people feel like they were better than everyone else, leading to fights and unhappiness when friends and families argued over silly things and competed against each other. Then there was Leviathan, the Prince of Envy, who lived in a gloomy forest of never-ending night. Leviathan was always looking at what others had with green eyes, whispering lies that made people want what wasn't theirs. This caused lots of sadness and anger, as friends envied each other over toys, relationships, and even caused them to steal from each other. Third was the fierce Prince of Wrath, named Satan, who made his home in a fortress surrounded by flames and thunder. Satan had a very short temper and liked to make people lose theirs. He'd make the smallest things seem like big problems, causing shouting and fighting over nothing at all. He created conflict and war all around the world, spreading his wrath. In the 4th position, but no less formidable, was Mammon, the Prince of Greed, who hoarded treasures in his underground vault. Mammon loved gold and jewels more than anything and convinced others to do the same. He made people forget to share, leading to loneliness and greed as everyone wanted more toys, more clothes, more of everything just for themselves. The 5th prince was Belphegor, known for his sloth and laziness. Belphegor preferred to lounge in a dim, cozy cave, doing as little as possible. He was very persuasive, making everyday tasks seem too hard and naps too tempting. This led to chores undone and homework forgotten, as everyone felt too lazy to do their part. 6th, there was Beelzebub, the Prince of Gluttony, who had a palace made entirely of candies and sweets. Beelzebub could never stop eating, and neither could those he influenced. He led people to eat too much, causing bad health, wasting food and forgetting the importance of sharing meals and moments together. Lastly, there was Asmodeus, the Prince of Lust, who lived in a mist of sweet perfumes and tempting whispers. Asmodeus made people chase after their desires without thinking of the consequences, leading to broken friendships and hurt feelings as people forgot to care for each other's hearts. One day, a bright light shone in this dark realm, bringing a message of hope and love. A heavenly savior named Jesus Christ challenged the princes by teaching the people about kindness, patience, and generosity. Little by little, the people started to see the prince's tricks for what they were. They learned to be happy with what they had, to calm their anger, to share their riches, to complete their tasks, to enjoy food in moderation, and to love one another truly. As this happened, the influence of the 7 princes of hell became weak and started to wane. Jesus filled the world with light and love. Because of him, people were freed from bad habits and found happiness in loving each other and God, bringing the kingdom of heaven. When Moses, who grew up in Egypt as a prince, returned from exile, he confronted Pharaoh with a very important command from God: "Let my people go." But Pharaoh, who was very stubborn, said no. He didn't care that the Israelites were suffering and wanted to be free. So God sent 10 plagues to Egypt. The first plague was really strange. The Nile River, where all the water came from, turned into blood. The water became red and thick. It smelled really bad and all the fish died. People couldn't drink or use the water. It was a big problem for everyone. But Pharaoh didn't change his mind. Then, God sent a plague of frogs. They came from the river and were everywhere. In houses, beds, and even in the food. The noise from all the frogs was super loud, but Pharaoh still didn't listen. After the frogs, God sent a plague of lice. They were everywhere, crawling into hair and onto skin. They made everyone itchy, even the animals. It was really uncomfortable. People tried to get rid of them, but it was impossible. Even in this discomfort, Pharaoh's mind was still not changed. Then the fourth plague hit, and wild animals started showing up everywhere. They went into people's houses and walked around the streets, making everything scary and messy. Lots of animals took over, making it unsafe to go outside. Everywhere was filled with the noise of these wild animals. But even with all this trouble, Pharaoh still wouldn't change his mind. The fifth plague was very sad. A sickness hit all the animals like cows, sheep, and horses. They got so sick that they died. This was a big problem for the Egyptians, who needed these animals. People were very sad, but Pharaoh was still as stubborn as before. The sixth plague was painful boils. Really bad sores that popped up on everyone's skin. It hurt a lot, made people very uncomfortable, and made it hard to move. It was a constant reminder of the ongoing plagues. Even with all this pain, Pharaoh's heart was still hard. Next, God sent the seventh plague, a huge hailstorm. This wasn't just regular hail, it was big chunks of ice mixed with fire falling from the sky. It smashed the plants and trees and hurt anyone outside. Egypt had never seen such a violent storm, but Pharaoh still wouldn't budge. After the hail, God sent the eighth plague, locusts. They came in a giant swarm and ate up everything green that was left. The fields, the trees, all the plants, everything got eaten up. The sky was black with locusts, but Pharaoh was still stubborn and would not change his mind. Then the ninth plague came, darkness. But this was no ordinary darkness. It was so dark that you couldn't see anything at all for 3 whole days. People couldn't leave their homes, and it was scary being in such deep darkness. But still, Pharaoh didn't change his mind. Finally, the last and worst plague came. It was the saddest night in Egypt. The firstborn child in every family, and even the firstborn of the pharaoh, died. From the smallest house in Egypt to Pharaoh's big palace, everyone was sad and crying. This was the moment when Pharaoh's heart finally changed. After Pharaoh's heart finally changed, he told Moses, "Take your people and leave Egypt." So Moses led the Israelites away from their life of hardship towards freedom. But this was not the end of their story. As the Israelites packed their belongings and left Egypt, they were filled with hope. They walked with their families and animals, carrying bread that hadn't even had time to rise. The night was quiet, but their hearts were loud with joy. But soon, Pharaoh's heart turned hard again. He thought, "What have we done, letting all those people go?" So Pharaoh changed his mind. He called his soldiers and got his chariots ready. With his army, Pharaoh chased after the Israelites, wanting to bring them back. The Israelites, seeing Pharaoh and his army coming closer, were terrified. They felt trapped with the Red Sea in front of them and Pharaoh's army behind them. They cried out to Moses, scared of what was about to happen. Moses told them not to be afraid. He said, "Stand still, and you will see how God will save us today." Then Moses raised his staff over the sea, and something incredible happened. God made a strong wind blow, and the waters of the Red Sea split apart. The Israelites walked through the sea on dry ground, with walls of water on both sides. It was a path of escape no one could have imagined. As they walked all night, their path illuminated by a miraculous light, they marveled at the sights around them. Through the clear walls of water, they could see fish of every color and size, swimming in and out of the coral in the sea's hidden depths. They saw creatures they had never seen before, wonders of the deep that glowed with their own light, casting a beautiful glow on the path ahead. By morning, they had reached the other side, safe from Pharaoh's reach. When Pharaoh's army tried to follow them through the sea, the waters came back together. The chariots, horses, and soldiers were all swept away. Pharaoh's army couldn't hurt the Israelites anymore. After crossing the sea, the Israelites knew they were truly free. They sang and danced, praising God for the great escape. Moses and the people looked back at the sea, thankful for the miracle that led them to freedom. This incredible journey showed the Israelites that with faith in God, even the deepest waters can part, making a way where there seemed to be none. In the last book of the Bible, called Revelation, There's a story about a mysterious creature called the Beast. Imagine a creature that is super powerful and kind of scary looking, with piercing eyes and sharp, twisted horns. This beast comes out of the sea. The beast is so strong and intimidating that people all over the world are amazed by it. They start to follow the beast, listening to it instead of remembering what's good and right. The beast has a partner, a monster that comes out of the earth. This monster has 2 horns and is like the beast's biggest fan and helps it by convincing more people to follow the beast. It even performs tricks and wonders to make people believe that the beast is great and powerful. One of the scariest things about the beast is that it talks against everything that is truly good and stands against God. It tries to convince people to do the same, leading them away from love, kindness, and truth. The beast and its partner have a special mark called the Mark of the Beast. They say that everyone needs to have this mark on their hand or forehead. But the mark isn't good. Having it means people are choosing to follow the beast and forgetting about what's truly important, being kind, loving, and doing what's right. The 2 beasts rule for many years and deceive a lot of people away from what is good. But here comes the hero of our story, the King of Goodness, shining brighter than the sun, ready to put an end to all the mischief and bring back peace and happiness. Imagine him riding on a white horse, leading a mighty army of good guys, all ready to stand up for what's right. The battlefield is unlike any other, where the fight isn't just with weapons, but with truth and justice. The beast and his team of bad guys, all set to protect their kingdom of lies, shout and scream, ready for battle. They throw their worst at the King of Goodness, lies like fire, confusion storms, trying to beat the light. But the King of Goodness isn't fighting alone. Behind him stands an army of angels, those who picked the side of light, even when it was tough. Wearing shining armor, they show how strong and loving goodness really is. As the fight starts, the King of Goodness shouts out a challenge that booms like thunder. The beast and his minions rush forward, full of false confidence. But then, with an effortless wave of his hand, the king sends out a flash of light so bright it's like daytime, cutting through the beast's lies like a sharp sword. Suddenly, the angels fight back with divine thunder, striking the demons hard. This action turns the tide. The beast's forces start losing their strength and power. The battle shifts, and now the weakened beast and his followers are caught by the light's side. With the beast now powerless, the King of Goodness orders them to be thrown into the lake of fire. This pit is a symbol of their defeat and the end of everything bad and false. As the beasts are hurled into the lake, their roars of defiance turn to cries of defeat. The fire consumes their power, ensuring they can no longer harm or deceive. The sky clears, and a new dawn breaks, symbolizing the victory of good over evil, truth over lies. This moment marks not just the end of the beasts, but the beginning of a new era of peace, love, and truth. It's a vivid reminder that in the end, goodness prevails, and those who stand for what's right, even in the face of great evil, will see a new world where happiness and love reign forever. Long ago, before the world as we know it existed, there was a beautiful angel named Lucifer. He was one of God's most magnificent creations. In heaven, Lucifer was known for his brilliance and beauty. He was adorned with precious stones, and his appearance was radiant, reflecting the glorious light of God. Lucifer was not just any angel, he was among the highest ranking, possessing great wisdom and power. He was a leader of worship and was deeply admired in heaven. His role was to bring glory to God through music and praise. However, something changed in Lucifer. Despite his high position and the honor given to him, he became proud. His heart was filled with vanity and greed for more power. He started to think that he should be as important as God. Lucifer wanted to be worshipped like God was, and this desire led him down a dangerous path. Lucifer's pride turned into rebellion. He convinced a third of the angels in heaven to join him, to turn against God and try to overthrow him. This was the first ever rebellion in heaven. Lucifer and his followers wanted to take control, believing they could rule better than God. But God, in his power and justice, could not allow this rebellion to succeed. There was a great battle in heaven. Michael, another powerful archangel, led God's angels against Lucifer and his followers. It was a fierce and terrible fight, but in the end, Lucifer and his rebellious angels were defeated. As punishment for his rebellion, Lucifer was cast out of heaven. He and the angels who followed him fell from grace and were thrown down to a realm far from heaven. This was the birth of hell, a place of darkness and separation from God. After his fall, Lucifer became known as Satan, which means adversary or accuser. He and his followers, now fallen angels or demons, became enemies of God and everything good. They roamed the earth, spreading lies and evil, trying to lead people away from God. The story of Lucifer is a powerful and sobering tale. It's a story about the dangers of pride and the consequences of rebellion against God. It reminds us that even the most beautiful and gifted beings can fall if they let pride take over their hearts. Lucifer's fall from heaven teaches us the importance of humility and the need to stay true to what is good and right. In the future, a day is coming when God will judge all the people who have ever lived. It is called Judgment Day, and it is when God decides who will go to heaven and who will be cast into hell. On Judgment Day, it is believed that Jesus will come back to earth. This won't be a quiet return. It will be powerful and glorious. The Bible says there will be loud trumpets, and the whole world will know that Jesus has come back. Jesus will look like the great King from heaven. The sky will change, and everyone, no matter where they are, will see him. People who have died will be brought back to life. They, along with everyone who is still alive, will gather before God. This is when the judgment will start. Jesus will be like a king sitting on a great, majestic throne, and everyone will stand before him. On this day, everything we have ever done, said, or even thought will be known. Nothing will be hidden. The Bible says that books will be opened, including the Book of Life, which has the names of everyone who has chosen to follow Jesus and live in a way that pleases God. People will be judged based on their actions and whether they chose to accept God's love and forgiveness. Those who have followed Jesus and have asked for forgiveness for the wrong things they've done will be invited to live with God forever in a new, perfect world called heaven. Heaven is described as a beautiful place where there is no sadness, pain, or suffering. But for those who have chosen not to follow God and have turned away from his love, the Bible says they will be separated from God and won't be able to live in heaven. This part of Judgment Day is sad, and it's a reminder of how important it is to think about the choices we make. Judgment Day is about justice and fairness. It's a day when God will make everything right. All the wrong things in the world, like lying, hurting others, or being selfish, will be dealt with. It's also a day of hope for many people because it means that God's goodness and love will finally make everything in the world good and right. The story of Judgment Day teaches us that our actions and choices matter. It's a reminder to live in a way that is kind and good, to ask for forgiveness when we do wrong, and to care about others. It's also a story about God's promise to make a new world where everything is just, peaceful, and filled with love. At a big wedding party in Cana, everyone was laughing and dancing, but they ran into a big problem. They ran out of wine, and the party was about to get dull. But Jesus was there, and he did something nobody expected. He took jars filled with water, and with a simple gesture, turned the water into the most delicious wine the guests had ever tasted. The party lit up again, and everyone's jaws dropped, wondering how water had turned into wine. On another day, a huge crowd of 5,000 people gathered around Jesus, listening to every word he said. As the sun started to set, everyone realized they were really hungry, but all they had were 5 bread rolls and 2 tiny fish. It seemed impossible to feed so many with so little, but Jesus took the bread and fish, looked up to the sky, and gave thanks. Suddenly, the food started multiplying. Everyone ate until they were full, and there were even baskets of leftovers. It was like the bread and fish never ended. Once, while Jesus and his friends were sailing across the Sea of Galilee, a terrifying storm blew in. The wind howled, and the waves crashed into the boat, making everyone think they were going to sink. But Jesus was calm amidst the chaos. He stood up, stretched out his hand and said, "Peace, be still." Instantly the storm stopped, and the sea became as smooth as glass. His friends were amazed, whispering to each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and waves obey him." After that, on a different night, Jesus' friends were in a boat again, struggling against the waves. Suddenly, they saw a figure walking on the water towards them. It was Jesus, walking as if the stormy sea were a dry path. His friends were scared at first, thinking it was a ghost, but Jesus called out to them, telling them not to be afraid. Walking on water, he showed them there was nothing to fear when he was with them. In Jerusalem, there was a man who had been blind from birth. People thought he would never see the beauty of the world, the colors of the market, or the faces of his family. But Jesus had other plans. He made some mud with his saliva, put it on the man's eyes, and told him to wash in the pool of Siloam. When the man washed his face and opened his eyes, he saw everything for the first time: the blue sky, the bustling streets, and the smiling faces of those around him. His joy was boundless, and everyone who saw him was filled with wonder. In a village near Gergesa, Jesus encountered people tormented by spirits that brought them great pain and confusion. With a word of command, Jesus freed these people from their suffering. The spirits begged not to be sent away into nothingness, so Jesus allowed them to go into a nearby herd of pigs. The moment the spirits entered the pigs, the animals ran wildly and plunged into a lake, disappearing from sight. The people watched in amazement as peace returned to their village, and the tormented were now calm and free. On his journey, Jesus and his disciples came across a fig tree that bore no fruit. It was a symbol of promise that showed no results. Jesus spoke to the tree, saying it would never bear fruit again. The next day, the tree was withered from its roots, a stark reminder of the importance of living a fruitful life, full of faith and action. One of the most astonishing miracles happened when Jesus received news that his dear friend Lazarus had died. By the time Jesus arrived, Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. The air was heavy with sorrow, and Lazarus' sisters were heartbroken. But Jesus, with a deep love in his heart, asked them to roll away the stone from the tomb's entrance. Then, with a voice that echoed with power and compassion, he called, "Lazarus, come out!" And to everyone's astonishment, Lazarus came out of the tomb, alive and well, wrapped in his burial cloths. This miracle showed everyone that not even death could limit Jesus' power. Another time, Jesus took 3 of his closest friends up a high mountain. Without warning, Jesus' appearance transformed. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. 2 figures appeared beside him, great heroes from the past, talking with him. This moment, known as the Transfiguration, revealed Jesus' divine glory to his friends, leaving them in awe and giving them a glimpse of the heavenly realm. The greatest miracle came after Jesus himself had been crucified. His friends and followers were heartbroken, thinking all was lost. But on the 3rd day, when some of them went to visit his tomb, they found it empty. An angel told them, "He is not here, for he has risen as he said." Jesus appeared to them alive, showing them his hands and side, proving he had overcome death itself. This miracle, the resurrection, is the cornerstone of faith for many, showing that love and life are stronger than death. Through these miracles, Jesus taught lessons of hope, love, and the promise of new beginnings. He showed that with faith, nothing is impossible, and that there's always a light in the darkness, ready to lead us into a future filled with wonder. A long time ago, there was a man named John who lived on an island called Patmos. One day, something incredible happened. God gave him a vision, a special dream, to show him what the future holds. John's vision transported him into a heavenly throne room, more beautiful and majestic than anything on earth. It was filled with brilliant lights and colors, and creatures unlike any he had seen before. Right there in the center of it all was Jesus. The vision showed Jesus approaching a mysterious book sealed with 7 seals. This book contained the secrets of the future, and only Jesus was worthy to open it and reveal its contents to John. The first 4 seals were represented by the 4 horsemen: conquest, war, famine, and lastly, death. As the first seal opened, Conquest came riding on a magnificent white horse. He had a crown because he was all about winning, but not by fighting. He had a bow and wanted to fill the world with peace and truth. Yet, his path was not without resistance. As he rode forward, he found that not every heart was ready to be won. Conquest's journey was a vision of the struggle between light and darkness in the world. When the second seal broke, War rode in on a fiery red horse, swinging a big sword. War was all about conflict, as he used his sword to take peace away from the earth, making people fight each other. It was as if everywhere you looked, people were arguing and battling, unable to find peace. With the third seal, Famine arrived looking serious on a black horse. He held scales that showed there wasn't enough food for everyone. Every meal became extremely important, and the people were greatly affected by the weight of hunger. This period tested the generosity and kindness of humanity, encouraging people to help one another, reminding us how sharing can bring light even in the darkest times. The fourth seal revealed a chilling sight: death. He showed up on a pale horse with Hades right behind him. They brought a time of sadness, with many people getting sick and resources becoming scarce, casting a shadow over the world. This time made everyone remember how important it is to care for each other and to make the most of every moment together, teaching us the value of compassion in the toughest times. When the fifth seal opened, John saw a sad sight. There were people who had stood up for what's right, but got hurt for it, their voices calling for justice. They wore white robes as a symbol of their goodness and that they wouldn't be forgotten. This promised a time when doing the right thing would win, a future where truth and bravery shined the brightest. The sixth seal caused big trouble. Earthquakes shook the ground, the sun went dark, and the moon turned red, shocking everyone who saw. Stars seemed to fall from the sky, painting a picture of a world in need of change. This was a clear signal that it was time for everyone to think about how they could make things right again, urging us to come together and rebuild what was lost. Lastly, the seventh seal brought a deep silence, as if everyone was holding their breath. This quiet time was not just a pause, but a chance for everyone to reflect about what had happened and what was coming next. Then 7 angels appeared with trumpets to let the people know that more challenges and trials were waiting ahead, urging them to be ready for what the future holds. John's vision of the 7 seals is full of stories and lessons. It's about never giving up, teaching us to stick together, believe in good, and keep looking for the light even when it's hard. Once upon a time, there were 2 very different men. The first man was very rich and lived in a big, beautiful house. He wore the fanciest clothes and ate the most delicious food every day. Not far from his house, right by the gate, there was another man named Lazarus. Lazarus was very poor and he was sick. He didn't have a home or nice clothes and he was very hungry. All he wanted was to eat the crumbs that fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores, keeping him company. The rich man saw Lazarus but never helped him. He kept living his life filled with fun and plenty, not caring for those in need around him. Then one day, Lazarus passed away and the angels took him to a special place called heaven, where he was no longer hungry or in pain. He was comforted and happy there. The rich man also passed away, but he found himself in a place of suffering called hell. He was in great pain and very thirsty. But there was a huge gap between him and Lazarus, and he couldn't reach the place where Lazarus was. The rich man called out, "Father Abraham, have mercy on me. Send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I am in agony in this fire." But Abraham said, "Child, remember that during your life you received good things, while Lazarus received bad things. But now He is comforted here, and you are in agony. And besides all this, there is a big gap between us and you, so that those who want to go from here to you cannot, nor can anyone cross over from there to us." The rich man then asked if Lazarus could be sent to warn his brothers, so they wouldn't end up in the place of suffering too. Abraham told him that his brothers could listen to the words of Moses and the prophets who teach us how to live well. As the story concludes, the message becomes clear. Life is not just about the wealth we accumulate or the pleasures we enjoy. It's about the love we share, the help we give, and the legacy we leave behind. The tale of Lazarus and the rich man teaches us to look beyond our desires and to care for those around us, for in doing so, we find the true essence of humanity and the path to lasting peace and happiness. In the realm beyond the clouds, in a city called Heaven, there lived countless angels, each with their unique roles and duties, all coexisting in perfect harmony and peace. Among these celestial beings was Michael, known throughout heaven not only for his strength, but also for his wisdom and fairness. Michael's life in heaven was filled with joy, purpose, and the serene beauty of the divine kingdom. Heaven itself was a sight to behold, with streets of gold that shimmered under the eternal light and rivers clear as crystal flowing through lush gardens. Flowers that never wilted and trees laden with fruit that sparkled like jewels adorned this paradise. Michael spent his days overseeing the protection of heaven's gates and ensuring peace among its inhabitants. He was a leader among the archangels, respected and loved by all for his dedication to God's will and his compassion for every being, great or small. His interactions were often with the other archangels, discussing matters of the spirit and the well-being of both heaven and the world below. They would gather in the council hall, a magnificent structure that reflected the glory of creation, where they shared wisdom and offered praises to God. Despite his responsibilities, Michael found time to enjoy the wonders of heaven. He would wander through the gardens, sometimes alone, contemplating the mysteries of the universe, or sometimes accompanied by fellow angels, sharing stories of creation and the joy of serving the Almighty. The peace of heaven was profound, a peace that transcended understanding. It was a place where no shadow could exist, where every heart was filled with love, and every soul was in perfect communion with God. This was Michael's home, a haven of goodness and light, a testament to the beauty and perfection of divine love. But peace would not last forever. There was one angel named Lucifer who was very beautiful and shone like the morning star. However, Lucifer's heart grew dark with pride. He wanted to be above everyone, even God. This led to a great sadness in heaven, for such thoughts were against the love and unity that held it together. One day, Lucifer decided to rebel against God. He convinced a third of the angels to join him, promising them freedom and power. But this was a grave mistake, for no one could stand against the love and might of God. When Michael learned of Lucifer's rebellion, he knew he had to act fast to protect heaven and its peace. God gave Michael the task of leading the loyal angels against Lucifer and his followers. It was going to be a battle unlike any other, a battle between light and darkness, right in the heart of heaven. The day of the battle arrived. The sky above heaven was filled with the sounds of clashing swords and the bright flashes of armor. Michael, with his sword of pure light, led the charge against Lucifer. The battle was fierce, with Michael and his angels moving quickly, dodging dark flames and countering attacks with bursts of brilliant light. Lucifer, with his own powerful sword, fought back with all his might. Around them, the sky turned into a canvas of chaos, painted with streaks of light and shadow as the angels fought. Both forces suffered great losses. A battle like this had never happened in heaven before, and Lucifer's forces used dark power to their advantage. Despite Lucifer's strength, Michael's determination and faith were unbreakable. With a mighty shout, Michael called upon the power of good, and his sword shone even brighter. In a decisive moment, he struck at Lucifer. The impact was tremendous. Lucifer, unable to withstand the power of Michael's faith and the unity of the loyal angels, was defeated. Lucifer and his followers were cast out of heaven, falling like meteors far away from the light. Michael and his angels stood victorious, but their hearts were heavy for the loss of their brothers. Peace returned to heaven, yet the battle was a reminder of the importance of humility and loyalty. From then on, Michael was celebrated as the protector of heaven, a true hero who stood firm in the face of darkness. His bravery and faith had saved the realm of light, ensuring that love and unity would reign forevermore. And so, the story of Michael's battle with Lucifer became a legend, teaching all about the power of goodness and the dangers of pride. One day, Paul was praying when suddenly a whirlwind of light appeared to him. In the blink of an eye, Paul found himself floating up into the sky, higher and higher, past the clouds, and into a place like no other. He landed softly on ground, made of clouds that sparkled like diamonds. This was no ordinary place. This was heaven. Paul looked around in wonder. The first thing he noticed was the music. It was as if every beautiful sound he had ever heard was being played all at once by angels. They had wings that glowed, and their music made the air dance with colors. Then Paul saw something amazing. Animals he had never seen before. There were lions with wings, talking to peacocks with silver feathers, and gentle giants that could float. Everywhere he looked, there were creatures full of joy and peace. In front of Paul, there was a path with holy light leading to a magnificent palace. The palace was made of a crystal so clear you could see the rainbow inside it. As Paul walked, flowers along the path bloomed just for him. Suddenly, in front of the palace, Paul saw a figure so bright he could hardly see. It was Jesus, surrounded by a dazzling light. Jesus smiled at Paul, and his heart filled with a happiness he had never known. Jesus didn't speak with words, but Paul could understand everything he wanted to say. It was as if love itself was talking, telling him secrets about joy and peace. Jesus showed Paul a river that sparkled with life. The water was not just blue. It was alive with every color Paul could imagine. Along the riverbank there was a tree that bore 12 kinds of fruits, one for each month, and its leaves could heal anything. Paul wanted to stay forever, but his visit had come to an end. The whirlwind of light gently carried him back down to earth. He landed back where he started, filled with incredible joy and peace. He knew he had been given a glimpse of heaven to share hope with everyone, to tell them about the amazing love and wonderful place that awaits those who believe. Paul could hardly find the words to describe what he saw and felt, but he tried his best, telling everyone about the music, the animals, the river of life, and most importantly, the endless love of Jesus Christ. And even though it was hard for people to understand everything, they could see the truth in Paul's eyes and the love in his heart. They knew he had seen something extraordinary, a glimpse of heaven, and it filled them with hope and joy, knowing that paradise is real.